Well, it's a hot one today, so let's get this done. Grant Cardone says your 401k is a trap. His exact words: saving money is a trap. 401ks are a trap. Colleges are traps. Homes are actually traps. And his advice is simple: pull your money out and put it into real estate instead. Now, I'm going to show you what actually happens if you follow that advice and who actually profits when you do. Now, I'll give him this much: he's not making up the problems with a 401k out of thin air. There are real withdrawal penalties if you touch that money before 59 and a half. There are required distributions later that force you to pull money out on the government schedule, not yours. And yeah, administrative fees can eat into your returns over decades in ways most people never bother to check. Those are real complaints, and honestly, plenty of financial advisors would tell you the same about the fees. I'm not going to pretend 401k is perfect, because it isn't, but here's where his advice stops being financial insight and starts being a sales pitch. Say you're 40 years old with $80,000 sitting in a 401k and you cash it out early to buy real estate like he's telling you to do. You're going to owe income tax on the whole amount, plus a 10% early withdrawal penalty on top of that. Depending on your tax bracket, you could lose $20,000 to $30,000 of that $80,000 before you've bought a single door. That's not a strategy. That's setting a quarter of your money on fire to prove a point. And that's assuming you're even at an age where early withdrawal penalties apply. For a lot of working people in their 20s and 30s, that penalty hits even harder relative to how much time that money had left to grow. And that's before you even get to where he wants that money to go. Grant Cardone doesn't just sell an idea. He runs a company called Cardone Capital. It's a real estate fund that pools money from other people just like you into apartment buildings that he controls. So when he tells you 401ks are a trap, he's not a neutral voice warning you about a bad system. He's the guy on the other side of the transaction, and the money he's telling you to pull out of your retirement account is money he'd very much like to have flow into his fund instead. That's worth sitting with for a second. The same man calling your retirement account a trap has built a multi-billion-dollar real estate portfolio by his own account worth around $5 billion, with a B, yes, largely funded by people moving their money exactly where he's pointing. Now here's the part that should actually worry you. Financial professionals who've looked at his funds point out that investors get locked into these deals for an indefinite period. Not a year, not 5 years, indefinite. If you want out, you may need to hire a lawyer just to get back even part of what you put in. Compare that to a 401k where the money is yours, it's protected by federal law, and outside of normal rules, you can generally move it, roll it over, or eventually access it without needing to sue anybody to see your own cash again. One of those systems has decades of federal regulation behind it. The other one is a private fund controlled by the same guy telling you not to trust regulated accounts. He's also not a licensed fiduciary. That means he's under no legal obligation to act in your best interest the way a financial advisor managing your retirement would be. He can tell you whatever he wants about your 401k, point you toward his fund, and if it goes badly for you, there's no regulatory requirement he was ever looking out for you in the first place. That's a meaningful difference between him and somebody who's actually accountable for the advice they're giving, and it's a distinction that gets lost every time this clip goes viral on social media. I get why this pitch lands with people. Rent's up, groceries are up, and a 401k statement showing modest gains after 30 years feels slow and abstract compared to someone showing you photos of apartment buildings and talking about monthly cash flow right now. Cardone is good at making patience look like weakness and urgency look like wisdom. But slow and boring is exactly what a retirement account is supposed to be. The whole point of tax-advantaged, federally protected accounts is that they don't require you to trust one guy's fund, his lockup terms, or his definition of when you're allowed to have your own money back. So what do you actually do with this if you're working a regular job and you've got a 401k, especially one with an employer match? First, don't touch it to chase somebody else's real estate pitch. If your employer matches contributions, that matches free money. And walking away from it to fund somebody else's apartment portfolio is walking away from part of your own paycheck. Second, real estate isn't a bad investment. Plenty of working people build wealth in it over time, and I'm not telling you to avoid it. The problem isn't the asset claims, it's liquidating a protected, penalty-free if you wait account. to chase it on someone else's timeline and someone else's fund. Third, if real estate genuinely interests you, there are ways to get exposure to it without gutting your retirement. REITs inside a normal brokerage account, saving separately outside your 401k, or simply waiting until you have investable cash that isn't earmarked for your retirement years. None of those require you to eat a tax penalty or hand your money to someone else's indefinitely locked fund. So here's my actual takeaway. Grant Cardone isn't wrong that 401ks have real limitations. He's not wrong that fees and penalties and required distributions are worth understanding before you commit decades of savings to one. But when the guy telling you to abandon a protected retirement account also happens to run the fund he wants that money to land in, and that fund locks you in indefinitely while his retirement advice sets you free of yours, that's not a warning worth listening to. That's a pitch dressed up as advice. The people who actually get hurt by this aren't the ones with millions already parked in diversified portfolios. It's the person working full-time who hears 401ks are a trap from a guy in a designer suit, pulls out their $80,000, eats $20,000 or $30,000 in taxes and penalties, and hands the rest to a fund they can't easily get back out of. That's the version of this story that never makes it to his videos, and it's exactly why this channel exists, to say it instead. If you enjoyed the content or if it helped you out, click subscribe and like, and I will see you in the next video.